Hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to
Thanks for having us.
ChatGBD,
The place to
our
be.
new and exciting podcast for Anzu with everything that we do. My name is Guy. I'm the EVP of Supply and Revenue Operations. And today we have two marvelous guests with us. Want to introduce yourself?
Of course. I'm gonna talk to the counter, right?
Talk to guy.
And my name is Maol. I'm a director of growth management here at Anzu, working for 4 years already, enjoying every second, giving the publishers exactly what they want: revenues, service, bottom line.
Here we go.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. My name is Nadav, Director of Revenue Operations. Basically, I'm taking care of Mao's publisher and making sure the revenue will flow in the right direction, optimizing it and building new source of revenue, obviously.
What do you mean? Thanks for having me. This was my, I asked you to be here, so that was that.
Yeah, but I know you will like it.
No, it's look, you're going to be famous very soon. You're both of you, just so we'll get a perspective, are the backbone, the business backbone of everything in Anzu. Every campaigns that we get, you guys get it. You deal with those campaigns, you distribute them to the right place, and you make sure our partners and publishers are happy, and obviously our clients are getting the audience they want. I wanted to take a lot of steps maybe back, and really give context of what is AdTech and what is AdTech for games, because when I speak to a lot of monetization folks today, they know what they're doing the day to day, but sometimes there's sort of they lack the context and history. Before we were discussing that, we were going back to 1996 and 1997. Really the internet of then, websites, web pages. They looked at advertising. They understood that it needs to be part of the business model, even before the Facebook.com was around. I think you mentioned the website of
Yeah, Wired.com.
yeah.
If you think about it, online advertising exists 30 years, 31 years. That's it.
Yeah.
To compare this to newspapers that exist for decades, it's still a fairly young industry.
It's
So you- so you
it is
check-
young, but it's built on the structure of what happened before online advertising. Vendor mentioned tech. Now we need to understand when did the tech got involved within the advertisement ecosystem, and that's where we'll dive into DSPs and SSPs, ad exchanges, SDKs maybe, because we
I don't know.
also Anzu.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
Relations that
1994 is the first year where Wired.com introduced a first display banner published, and we ran over there was AT&T. That was the first time someone was willing to pay for an online advertising within the internet as we see today.
And it had the craziest CTR.
probably.
Like around 20%, if I'm not mistaken. And basically the ad was, if you ever click the mouse here, like the ear was in caps looking pretty big, and 20% CTR, it's either fraudulent or it's something very, very unique and special.
Everyone would like to have
There weren't a lot of
sense.
pages.
Yeah.
But, I mean, back then, and I'll date myself and say that I do remember web pages showing up after different formats that include Gopher and PDF and all that. We're now in a situation where we were trying a lot of different things, different formats, the tower, the banner, the rectangles, all those ratios, that some of them became standards and some of them didn't, were pretty crazy. And a lot of people tried, and then, with Yahoo and Google buying, what was it, DoubleClick or another company that really started the infrastructure.
That was their foundation for AdSense.
And applied
semantics.
semantics. And that became really the infrastructure that allowed the business to grow to what it is today, right? Uh, and for a while, and some say still is a kind of a wild west. Just looking at websites, you remember we had the inside of the website, the outside, all those uh, tools, toolbars. I think a lot
Stations, they used to call it.
a lot of the Israeli high tech was built on that, right? I mean, we can actually name names, but I think
Babylon, maybe that was the biggest
Yes.
Israeli company that supported this kind of activity. I don't think they exist anymore, but they had a good time.
some of the founders of companies that are today big, like Iron Source, Imperium, I think started their AdTech journey in that space. And some of the online gaming companies, starting from Random Logic, what's now 888,
Okay.
right? Started, and I remember I was early days in Random Logic, and they were already buying a lot of traffic from websites like Lycos, if you remember the search engine, and others. So it was pretty crazy.
I think that's before our time.
Yes, I think when maybe like a decade before.
Maybe 2 days.
In 2004, I was one of the founders of Double Fusion, which was one of the early going into in-game advertising. Definitely early days before mobile existed. Then when mobile as a media became popular, I think 2013, 14, the iPhone, the store, it really became sort of the media to be.
2008, 2007,
The beginning of
iPhone was introduced to the
right.
world. Then right after all those Android devices started to pop in, App Store was announced 2008.
8?
Yeah. And
right after Facebook launched very significantly around the world, I think.
correct,
It became popular around like 2007-ish,
give or take, yeah.
and then the store came out in 2008.
And the first, talking about the mobile gaming in particular, the first ads were particularly rewarded ones. That was, the entrance of what we see today as ad monetization, and these were rewarded ads, the video ones. And right after, the other formats, the banner native, started to roll in, starting 2013, give or take.
At that time, the sort of the ecosystem or the core ecosystem of online advertising was already set, right? I mean, the platforms, the exchanges, most of it was already
The foundations were there.
With no transparency, no privacy,
Standards.
regulation, no standards at all. The definition of an ad was a bit vague. The meaning of a pixel, where it's located, was
The ability.
when you're saying
never
pixel.
existed in-
When you're saying pixel, a lot of people heard about that term pixel, but what does that mean?
So Pixel, and basically while I was reading the first ad that was launched by for AT&T, the Pixel is basically in the way to measure if an ad happened or not. So they took the creative itself, took the left top corner or right bottom corner, set a pixel there, and that's basically how the website was able to know if someone ever saw the ad, even for a split of a second. And that's the beginning of viewability nowadays.
Not to mention other framework that were introduced over time, like XDXT, GDPR, and the list goes on.
Now we're talking about like 2018, 2017. That's the beginning of the GDPR discussion that actually caused a lot of companies to shift their business from AdTech to something else, something within AdTech.
More standards mean less Wild West, and some companies that enjoyed from the Wild West and non-standard had to
maybe more value,
change.
more value for both, in my opinion, both publishers and advertisers. I think the regulation is that standard in the like what's going on in this Wild West is basically what's causing us to be on top of everything, every new trend, and basically deliver the best results to either the supply side, the publishers we're working with, or the demand side.
Mhm.
Advertisers, brands, resellers, and in the open exchange.
Mhm.
It's the challenges were always there, right? I mean, if you talk websites, you're still talking about reaching a lot of audience, a lot of people. Brands and advertisers want to know who this audience is, and they want to buy real eyeballs, right? They want to buy real people
Mhm.
in their attention, right? And they always want to sort of verify that through different tech, different technologies, different infrastructure.
I think even the early days when a brand advertiser wanted to purchase an impression, wanted to be engaged with the website audience, they had to work directly through direct IOs, meaning direct relationship between the brand and the website. And at first, there was a value, but when a brand wants to scale this and wants to get to more audiences, more websites, they had to make this scalable. They had to find ways to purchase impressions at scale. This is where programmatic is coming in and giving the ability for anyone at any given moment to make real time bidding auctions, buying impressions at scale.
Yeah, I think it brought a lot of value in terms of scalable activity, but you don't need to hire hundreds of people in order to locate one website or one newspaper in Mexico in order to increase the reach you have in Latin America. In addition to that, it also brought a lot of value around transparency, where you have the supply path optimization, where you cannot really sell for either users or brands, it doesn't really matter if you don't have any value in that chain. And if you're not working directly with someone, then you're just an intermediary. And if you don't have any product or value, you don't need to be in this ecosystem. And that's what started in 2017, 2018 with GDPR and supply path optimization. And I don't want to call it like the rise of SSPs and DSPs because they weren't there for a long time. But I think that's where the tech side of AdTech started to be more significant.
There was a big there is a known there was an IAB conference in 2017 where the CEO of P&G was standing on stage and basically telling anyone, shame on you. For anyone involved in the ecosystem, right after what happened is XPXD was introduced, GDPR was right after. That was the shift towards heavily buying programmatically, and that I mentioned on having transparency end to end, both publishers to advertisers on the other side.
In a way, like making this world a better place. I mean, when we're talking about regulation, I know it prevents business from optimizing their core and unique offering, but again, it makes sure that we won't show any edgy content to a kid, and that's, in my opinion, something that is a must, especially nowadays when kids are exposed to everything. So at least you have like one tiny domain where it potentially can be brand safety or safe for kids. That's another angle that transparency and tech brought to this business. In my opinion, it's unique and it's crucial
For the business itself. And one, it's like there are two forces. I think maybe the two biggest forces that happened is one, scale. And when it comes to scale, you need to aggregate the smaller partners and parties and publishers. And this is where the rise of SSPs and DSPs, because if you're not a big buyer or you're not a huge media, right, you can become big by using a platform that democratize the AdTech, right? Or just aggregate you with others and sell it in bulk, right? And that is, I think, one of the most interesting things that happened with online. And then the entire thing is protecting viewers or players or users. And this is where the entire push with privacy actually happened. This is where standards really connected sort of those two shifts. Standards for privacy and standards so you could aggregate a lot of these publishers and a lot of these campaigns and advertisers.
Yeah, and I think it's a trend that will move forward. I mean, Google are talking about cookieless world for 8 years now, I think, but eventually we'll get there, and that's going to be another stone that will change part of the ecosystem that we live in. It won't affect every SSP or any DSP or any buyer, but it will have a major impact, especially on the web activity, so-called, that we've started this. That was the beginning of the
I
discussion.
think for anyone who's listening, and if you think about the 2008 crash on the stock exchange, there was a time, really long time, where there was no regulation. Eventually, everything crashed, and right after, they started to introduce new regulations to prevent this in the future. And this is kind of a classic case where market is getting mature. New regulations are introduced to protect everyone and create standards, and it's a healthy way of saying this is um, an industry that is evolving and needs to get some standards.
One of the things that really sort of added a lot of innovation is advertising in games. I think before that we were talking about banners and different sizes of banners and placements of banners in websites, and then in apps. I still remember the banners in the early version of Angry Birds and all that. Today they're really part of the game. Really, the ads itself, whether it's rewarded ads, there's an offer wall, right? All those extremely interactive and extremely part of the experience type of ads are very innovative. You can't find them in other medias. Simple apps or utility apps are not reintroducing them. So games, I think, really managed to squeeze the best out of this,
Make a business out of it.
The frictionless. And they started to be way more professional when it comes to the advertisement component of their business. They're bringing people from the outside. It's not only like a small studio that develops the game, but they got like supporting teams that helps them to really understand the bits and bytes and the foundation of ad monetization. And that basically allows them to give away their product for free. You can play a game without paying any money, but you will see some ads.
Which was crazy. I remember when, games started to be in the mobile, right? It was the $199 and 99 cents, and then zero. And a lot of people said it wouldn't work. And it shouldn't have, by the way, but because of the amazing scales of mobile phone in general, and, the tech path that they took in terms of being very sufficient to run game, very strong machines at the end of the day. Everybody has one or a few phones. That scale really allowed free-to-play to explode. And then for advertising to be, in some cases, a significant or even the main monetization channel.
Yeah, and sometimes we see cases where advertisers or agencies are becoming a publisher themselves.
Yeah.
I think that Azerion are a good example of.
Zero, then they started with web, right?
I think everyone starts with web.
Web was the first, and Azerion the last couple of years bought several companies, and they are now like an SSP and a DSP. They provide you with the full solution, and they also develop games. And they're
The concept of publishing, when the business started to evolve, instead of studios started to do everything on their own, they went to companies that their main business is to publish those games, create a business out of it through mostly ad monetization, user acquisition. But essentially, this is coming from old school advertising or publishing newspapers, TV, publishing books. It's all the same in the end. There's someone who creates the content and someone who publishes it.
It's data heavy. And I remember, seeing the attribution, right? Systems grow. It was mostly, they've created this system and made a huge business mostly around games, mobile games. Hyper casual, that huge wave of publishers able to monetize only with advertisement because they could measure by the minute and by the cent every expense for user acquisition and what was the ROI. Those were
Lifetime.
wonderful few years.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the lifetime value proposition of game developers and the way they track it and how sophisticated they may have.
Yeah, it's the ability to really measure at scale everything that you do, the user acquisition on one hand, the monetization on the other hand, what's the user's worth, and then predict very early on because of how players play the game, how they will monetize, and then direct them into a personal journey for in-app purchases, for more advertisement, understanding how much you want to spend the next day or sometimes the next hour.
Mhm.
It used to be a ton like that when privacy was a bit different, is pretty amazing. And now, I joined Anzu full time about almost 3 years ago. I'm excited to see that happening on mobile, but also on PC and console games.
Mhm.
Right? It, I'm a huge believer that what we have seen on mobile, we will see on console, although the scale, the amount of people is smaller. The fact that they're in front of a big screen is going to make them more valuable. And over time, it's just going to be a natural experience.
I think the console experience is the closest, maybe the equivalent of running on CTV. If I would compare the industries, brands used to buy web over years, evolved into the CTV space, still buying web. On the other side, app developers and also brands used to buy apps, I would say, placements on apps and games. And console is the involvement of this as a new way to engage with the audience in a gigantic screen, as we see
Yeah.
behind us over here.
Oh, we'll need to change it and add videos and all that.
Yeah.
When when it all becomes big and famous, but we'll see step by step.
The brands in the end they're looking for a good experience or where their ad will be displayed, and the bigger the better for them. CTV is proving itself day over day. The fact that there are tons of innovation. You mentioned the attribution. One of the trends that is happening these days is taking attribution for app installs.
Yep.
And have it through CTV advertising.
Correct.
Through various interesting methods.
Yep.
To make the attribution, which is for me, it's like fascinating. See, I'm the one who saw the industry end to end on the AdTech side, I would say, one of many, and seeing, how things evolve to the point that someone can make attribution after seeing an ad on TV. It's crazy.
And we are very far away from, in my opinion, from the end game where we all walk around in our own avatar in
Oh,
a
glasses.
virtual reality, and we can actually pick the brand from the shelf itself, and then it's shifted.
So, what would be the big sort of shifts in AdTech? Do you think in 2025? What do you think? What are we going to see? What were the changes that you see started in 2024?
So I'm biased, but I believe in gaming. And
All right.
that's why I'm here at Anzu, and I do believe, and we saw that in 2024, and 2023, and in 2022 as well. The growth that not only Anzu but everyone within the gaming ecosystem saw, and I think the trend would be positive, and that momentum is only growing, and that's basically where people, not users, not gamers, would like to invest their own free time, with or without their friends or family. Eventually, they want to play. We wanted to play since we were kids, and I don't think it's about to end.
Well, that absolutely. And what do you think more?
So many things, but but because gaming is becoming so easy to purchase and easy to be monetized, I think brands will start making their decision making on where to buy on a combination of lower funnel and upper funnel through games. They would be able to display non-intrinsic, beautiful ads coming through Anzu while buying simultaneously another ad placement from the same game to complement each other, the conversion and the awareness. And this would be a tactic that I believe that brands will start to, and starting already, to take into account when they're making their planning.
Yeah. I like this kind of line of thought because brand awareness and performance, or clickable ads, whatever you want to call them, were almost two separate. I know a lot of publishers that have two separate teams for that, because one is doing a lot of crazy thing outside of the usual, and the rest, the other team, the performance team, is just very good at doing user acquisition. As they work more and more together, and they can obviously look at the data, understand if this is effective or not, or what is more effective than not, we'll see more of that.
I think that eventually brands or companies in a way will understand what is more beneficial to a certain division in their company. Let's say Honda. Doesn't make no one will buy a Honda Civic from a call to action in a clickable banner ad in a mobile game. That will never happen. And brand awareness is more suitable for that, to bring more awareness around Honda offering. But eventually, maybe there are components within the Honda offering, such as garages that are part of Honda, or maybe Honda products, such as like a small mirror that is attached to your own mirror. Maybe that's something that performance can really help them to do. And they can buy products from Honda that are smaller than an actual car. And that's where they will need to understand first of all, what is their main agenda, where is their focus, and what is suitable for brand awareness and what is suitable for performance.
Mhm.
Different waves and leverage each effort, each marketing effort, and complement it with others, and that is more detailed, that is more specific around service or a product.
But they will go side by side.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's all about data. Appreciate your time. This has been fun. We'll do more of these.
Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you hear this, go ahead and subscribe on whatever channel you found us. Continue to look for us, because we're going to have more of these sessions with world experts around games, AdTech, and everything in between.